You ever wonder how fast your life can turn upside down? For me, it happened the day I cut off a gas line in my own basement. One I never asked for, never approved, but one that had been quietly bleeding my wallet dry for 3 years. I wasn't just fixing a leak or patching a pipe. I was starting a war I didn't even know I'd signed up for. And trust me, you do not want to go toe-to-toe with someone like Diane Porter, HOA president, queen of Pine Valley, professional rules enforcer, and apparently full-time gas thief. Now, let me back up a second. My name's Wyatt Breener, building inspector for the city, 40 hours a week, crawling through attics and crawl spaces, calling out contractors who think close enough is the same as code compliant. If there's one thing I know, it's how to spot when something doesn't add up. And let me tell you, a $128 monthly gas bill for a house sitting empty? That doesn't just not add up, it practically screams at you. The utility company didn't have answers, just a whole lot of those bills are legitimate, sir. So, one evening, flashlight in hand, I'm tracing the main gas line from my meter, hunting for a clue. And wouldn't you know it, right there above my head, tucked behind the joists, is a second line, patched in with professional skill, running right through the wall that connects my place to 845 Maple Drive. You guessed it, Diane Porter's address. Now, Diane, she's the kind of person who shows up at your door with supermarket flowers and a binder thick enough to serve as a riot shield. "Welcome to Pine Valley," she chirped at me when I moved in. "We have standards here." She didn't just say standards, she almost made it sound like scripture. In 30 minutes, she'd pointed out every non-compliant curtain, every bush that was half an inch too high, and cataloged every crime my mother's old wind chimes ever committed against neighborhood harmony. I didn't know it then, but she was casing the place. Not for weeds, for opportunity. Finding that gas line, patched, painted, hidden in plain sight, felt less like a gotcha moment and more like a punch in the gut. I was angry, but not yelling angry. Cold, methodical, every bit of training angry. I did what I do at work. Pulled out my notebook, snapped photos, made notes, cited the codes. This wasn't just theft. It was a safety hazard, a potential bomb waiting for a spark. I called the gas company and told them what I found. They asked me to wait, but I wasn't about to let another minute go by. So I cut the line myself, capped it, tested for leaks, and documented everything. If this ended up in court, I wanted to be ready. 30 minutes later, right on schedule, there's pounding at my door. Not knocking, not ringing, but the kind of pounding you only get from people who think HOA president means sheriff. I open the door, and there's Diane, face red, voice sharper than a busted pipe. "What did you do?" "My gas just went out," she shouted, barging right in like she owned the place. "I disconnected an illegal line," I said, keeping it professional, keeping my hands where she could see them because the security cam above my door was catching every second. "You're welcome to call the gas company for confirmation." She scoffed, said it was a community arrangement, claimed my mother had agreed to share utilities with the HOA. I just shook my head. My mother spent her last years fighting Alzheimer's. She couldn't have agreed to share so much as a cookie, let alone a utility hookup. Diane didn't have any paperwork, just the word community, weaponized. I saw neighbors peeking through blinds, Mrs. Lockwood ducking away across the street. Everyone watching, nobody stepping in. Diane went from red to white to red again, hands shaking, promising I'd regret this. She stormed out, already dialing her phone, and I knew I was in for it. That was just round one. The next morning, official HOA letterhead slid under my door. Notice of violation, severe, $500 fine for vandalism and destruction of community property. A disciplinary hearing, Friday night, community center, attendance mandatory. She was calling my gas line community property. I couldn't decide if I should laugh or scream. Instead, I called the HOA office. Got voicemail. Never got a call back. But I did get cold stares from neighbors, people who'd gotten the Diane memo. Troublemaker at 847 Maple Drive. Then came the texts, strangers telling me to leave, asking if I was dangerous, warning me about our children playing outside. Diane had gone public, spinning the story in the community group, deleting my comments. Before anyone could see my side. Suddenly, I was the villain. Thursday night, the police showed up. 2 officers, looking sheepish. "We got a complaint about property destruction." I showed them my evidence, photos, bills, codes. One officer recognized me. Jefferson High, class of '07, small world. Look, be careful, he said. She's got a lot of pull around here. By Friday, I had a choice. Lay low, or show up at the hearing and fight. I called the only lawyer I trusted. Clayton Merrick handled my parents' estate, old school, sharp as they come. He listened, nodded, and told me the truth. HOA law isn't all-powerful. You have rights. Bring your evidence, bring me, and don't let her steamroll you. That night, the community center was packed. More cars than I'd ever seen. Diane sat up front, flanked by her loyalists, looking every bit the Empress. She rolled out her narrative. I was reckless. I'd endangered the community. I'd destroyed property. When she finished, I stood, and with Clayton's help, demanded my right to speak. Projected my photos on the big screen, illegal line, bills, code citations. Told the crowd what really happened. Diane tried to shut me down, claimed my mother was happy to help. She had Alzheimer's, I said, voice shaking. Silence. Then murmurs. A board member asked Diane for documentation. She had none. Lorraine, another board member, looked at her feet. The vote went against Diane. The fine was dismissed. But Diane wasn't finished. She called the local paper, fed them a story that made me sound like a one-man crime wave. Reporter wouldn't print my side, but Shelby Galloway, a younger reporter with an axe to grind against HOA corruption, found me. I gave her everything. Photos, documentation. The whole sorry mess. Shelby dug deep, found misappropriated funds, landscaping bills billed to the HOA for Diane's personal yard, consulting fees paid to her sister. We organized. Residents came forward, stories of threats, phantom fines, rules changing on a whim. I requested the HOA financials. Diane denied it, illegally. Shelby went public with her investigation. And suddenly the tide turned. Pine Valley wanted answers. At the next quarterly meeting, the crowd was even bigger. Diane tried to keep control, but the board rebelled. I presented the evidence. Lorraine, finally brave, called for a vote on an independent audit. The mayor himself walked in, suspended Diane's authority, and announced a criminal investigation. Within weeks, the audit was complete. Gas theft from 3 houses, $80,000 for Diane's yard, consulting fees to family, $34,000 in bogus fines. Total, $163,400. Diane was arrested, charged, arraigned, mugshot splashed across the news. Residents got their fines refunded. Diane pleaded guilty, did community service at the Valley Food Bank. Her apology in court sounded rehearsed, but it was public, on the record. And the thing is, justice felt good, but it wasn't perfect. Neighbors apologized for believing Diane. Some still kept their distance, uncomfortable with all the noise. I wasn't a hero, I was just too stubborn to let a bully win. But the victory was real. People reached out from other neighborhoods, shared their stories, asked for advice. I built a website, a toolkit for fighting HOA abuse. Thousands visited. One day, Diane wrote me a letter, 3 pages, handwritten, full of regret. She admitted everything, talked about therapy, about learning the difference between power and service. She said I gave her a chance to be better. Invited me to meet at the food bank. I went. We talked. Not friends, just 2 people changed by the same fight. She said she was trying. I believed her. Spring came. The new HOA held a barbecue. No agenda, no mandatory attendance, just burgers and kids running wild. I brought my mom's potato salad and sat on the grass with neighbors who finally saw me, not as a threat, but as someone who stood up when it counted. Lorraine made a little speech, thanked me for reminding everyone that bullies only win if you let them. I got promoted at work, inspecting not just buildings, but HOA abuses, helping others fight back. My mother's roses bloomed along the fence line, deep red, just like she'd want. For the first time in years, the house felt like home. Maybe the best thing I learned is this: justice doesn't end with the bad guy losing. Real victory is when a whole community finds its backbone, when people stand up together for what's right. I kept my promise to my mother. I protected her house, her memory, and maybe, just maybe, I helped make Pine Valley a place worth calling home. Now let me ask you, if you'd been in my shoes, would you have fought back, even if it meant being the villain for a while? Or would you have let it slide and hoped the problem went away? Drop your thoughts below. Share your stories, your own fights for justice. Because in the end, the only way things change is when ordinary folks stand up and say, enough. And if you ever find yourself facing down a Diane Porter, remember, evidence, patience, and stubborn refusal to give in can move mountains. Sometimes, it can even bring a whole neighborhood back to life. 3.